that was a year. And now that it is finally in the rear view, let me say, God, 2020 was great.
This is the worst public health crisis for a generation.
Well, it was great for music, I mean. A lot of you might have missed that because as the pandemic scrambled all our brains, habits, and daily routines, I know many people were completely unable to think about music. For me, it was the only thing I could think about. I have many other interests besides music, but after about 2 months of quarantine with no theaters or sports or anywhere to go, my brain couldn't watch TV or finish movies or read books or even watch YouTube. Sorry, peers. I could play video games and listen to music. That was it. Pop music was really there for me this year, and that may have made me a rosier critic. It certainly helped to like the pop songs this year since the charts didn't seem to change at all for that entire spring and summer. But whatever it was, I just liked things more. I can't believe how many songs that would have made my top 5 in other years didn't make the cut. I could have easily made a top 20 of 2020, and I was tempted to, but that would be much more work and I'm already way behind. So let us now pay tribute to the songs that got us through the worst year in living memory. We're counting down the top 10 best hit songs of 2020. Number 10. Number 10 is Savage Remix by Megan Thee Stallion. I know, number 10. That's how good the year was.
I'm that bitch. I'm a savage. Classy, bougie, ratchet.
Houston's own Megan Thee Stallion becoming one of the biggest stars of 2020 was just about the most predictable thing in the universe. I was surprised that 2019, the year of the hot girl summer, wasn't her year. And 2020 emphatically did not have a hot girl summer, but she still crushed it anyway.
I'm a savage, attitude nasty.
I guess with Savage, she finally found that one thing that put her over the top. What was it? Was it that beat? Fuck yeah! Metallica songs don't bang this hard! Or maybe it was the goddamn hook of the goddamn year.
Savage, classy, bougie, ratchet.
I totally buy that Megan is all those things. Like Chaka Khan, Megan Thee Stallion is every woman. But in this case, what really put her over the top was the right collaborator. And what she got was a cosign from Houston rap legend Beyonce.
Big B and that B stand for bands.
I don't know when this happened, but at some point Beyonce became a really good rapper, which I guess is not that surprising. Beyonce was already trying to carry herself like a grand diva at age 19, so I think she actually has gotten consistently better the older she gets.
If you don't jump to put jeans on, baby, you don't feel my pain.
I'm a savage.
Like, I don't know that she's like a technical lyrical master or anything, but she doesn't really have to be. She just has to be Beyonce. She dominates this song. Even this live performance, which she's not even in, I don't think she left her mansion at all this year. In fact, if I had to make one objection to this song, I think that there's maybe a little too much Beyonce.
He be like, how that thing moving in them jeans. Even D4L.
She is on every single second of the remix, talking over Megan.
It's TikTok when I dance.
Yeah.
She kind of steals Megan's moment. I think she could have let her have a little more, but I doubt Megan complained much. Savage is one of those singles where if it didn't become a huge hit, we'd have to have a long, serious look at the state of things. It's basically an unimpeachable song. And I have 9 other songs I like better than it this year. Well, on we go. Number 9. Blinding Lights is not on this list. I know. The Weeknd snubbed again. That's why he showed up looking beat to shit everywhere this year. Symbolic of the damage of all those snubs. Blinding Lights was one of the most acclaimed and popular songs of the year. Everyone, well, except the Grammys, loved it. And I get it. It's basically a perfect sounding song, but for some reason I just had a hard time having strong feelings about it. I don't know. You know what really did it for me, though?
Never need a bitch, I'm what a bitch need. Trying to find the one that can fix me. I
I've been dodging death in the 6-speed. Amphetamine got my stomach feeling sickly.
Heartless, the single that preceded Blinding Lights, is a worse song by most measures I can think of. The big thing is that it doesn't really have a hook.
Cause I'm heartless, and I'm back to my ways cause I'm heartless.
Just kind of seems like it's hitting the same measure and even the same note over and over. But man, something about it just connected with me. Blinding Lights, the song about the feeling of being swept away beyond all conscious control. Yeah, maybe in a year where I'd gotten to drive more, I would have found that perfect moment where it clicked, but I never did. During the pandemic, my life has never felt more static or mundane. But Heartless,
And I'm back to my ways cause I'm heartless.
the song about saying fuck it, fuck self-improvement, fuck being anything but my absolute worst goddamn self, that one hit a little close to home.
Duffel bags full of drugs and a rocket.
Okay, not that part. My worst self ate too much pizza and played video games all day, so it's not a perfect comparison. But other than that, me and The Weeknd were exactly the same. You know, it's funny, I once considered The Weeknd's angelically beautiful tenor to be an impediment to his bad boy persona, and that seems like a very stupid opinion to me now. Now I buy it more than his more soft-hearted songs like Blinding Lights. Heartless was the angry, freeing rock bottom of 2020. And honestly, it was pretty good driving music too. This is music to crash your car into a ditch to, and it's exactly what I wanted to hear. Number 8. Music's great Lady Gaga experiment feels like it's finally winding down. All the little monsters have grown up. Her new album this year was mostly greeted with shrugs, the lead single especially, which wasn't even bad. It was actually pretty good, but it just felt too much like a retread of past glories, right down to the title.
I want just to be loved.
But if Gaga has indeed worn her last wacky dress onto the red carpet, at the very least she left us with one great song to go out on.
Rain on me.
It's funny, Gaga and Ariana debuted only a few years apart, but they feel like completely different generations of pop star. Further than Megan and Beyonce even, and they have like a 20-year gap between them. But Ariana slots well into Gaga's world. And they both released albums this year, but their team up blew everything else they did this year out of the water. And again, Gaga's album, which tried to bring back the electro dance pop of a decade ago, it wasn't bad, it was just dated. Especially in this year where all the dance clubs, well, you know. But Rain on Me turned out to be timelier than they could have imagined. In one of the hardest years we will ever go through, Rain on Me was a reminder to count our blessings. I'd rather be dry, but at least I'm alive is not the most artfully composed lyric I've ever heard, but who listens to Gaga for subtlety anyway? It was the right sentiment for 2020. And it gets even better when you know that Gaga meant dry as a metaphor for being sober. Yeah, we all swallowed a lot of rainwater this year, I think. And I do have a soft spot here. Smiling Through the Rain is just one of my favorite images.
Raindrops are falling on my head.
I don't care how many times I see it used, any song about it immediately gets a thumbs up from me. Gaga and Ariana don't reinvent the wheel here, but they both just kill their performance. And when this year is just an awful, distant memory, or when they start making movies about it, this is the song that'll take us to the end credits. This year has been hard, everyone has suffered. You can say this song is too much a throwback, or you can say that it'll forever be tied to this moment in time. But I feel like neither is right. I think it's gonna last for quite a long time. Rain on, Gaga. Number 7. It's hard not to view literally every song of 2020 through COVID glasses. This is already the third entry in a row that I'm gonna connect to it. But good God, thank Christ for this song.
I know I fucked up, I'm just a loser, shouldn't be with ya.
New Zealand teenager Benny got big off of TikTok, so it's tempting to see her as yet another basement artist plucked from obscurity. She's not. She was already signed to a major label, she's got backing behind her, she's collaborated with other big names. But it's just easier to imagine her as a nobody. because there's just something wonderfully fresh and unpolished about her.
I've been lonely. Yeah.
I'm not saying she's the next Lorde or Billie or even Avril Lavigne, but she does kind of ride that same energy. And boy oh boy, it is not hard to see why this one took off right at the beginning of the lockdowns when we all started really feeling the cabin fever. Rain on Me was my comfort anthem of the late lockdown when it was getting really desperate. But this was more a song for the early months when everyone just started feeling loopy and surreal. This just perfectly captured the boredom and frustration.
I know we're fucked up.
It was funny and fun and self-mocking. It made things feel a little more okay. Super Lonely was just the perfect, classic kind of immediately catchy pop song that people might never learn who did, but it also never gets old and just sticks around forever. It should have been the great radio hit of the year, except it was full of curse words and it falls apart with even the slightest bit of censorship. One little change takes out everything fun and playful, you fucking bitch-ass prudes. Oh, and I guess we have to give a shout out to Gus Dapperton, a guy with a ridiculous name and sounds exactly like Rex Orange County, but is not Rex Orange County. Yeah, he adds nothing, but he's there. La 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 la. Speaking for all the lonely bitches out there, thank you, Benet. I don't know if you're sticking around after this, but if this is what Zoomer Pop is gonna be, I welcome it.
I've been lonely.
Number 6. I set up these lists the way I do because popularity is what interests me. My ear has always been drawn to things that have a wider place in culture. I like hits. But these days, identifying a hit is harder to do when big names can power entire albums into the top 40. I didn't design this list to talk about deep cuts. But if it qualifies, it qualifies, so here you go.
I can see you standing, honey.
I became convinced of Taylor Swift's staying power in 2019 after she had just released the album Lover, her follow-up to the album Reputation. Those albums are both not good, they both underperformed, but they should have underperformed a lot more than they did, quite frankly. And instead, she was still basically as big as she ever was. One bad album you can maybe survive, but if you survive 2 in a row, you are officially too big to fail. And Taylor Swift seemed to recognize that because she dropped a surprise album that traded on none of her pop star flash and had no real attempts at hits or crossover singles because she realized she no longer needed them.
I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending.
Exile, the duet with Bon Iver, and co-written by one of the guys from The National, was my favorite song on that album by a lot. And I can already see some people suggesting that, at long last, Todd's inner indie rock snob is finally coming out. No, I have no inner indie rock snob. I'm only kind of into The National, and I've never liked Bon Iver. I always thought they sounded like a broken harmonica. Well, he does not sound like that here.
You were my town, now I'm in exile seeing you out.
He sounds more like the guy from The National, quite honestly. I don't get why he doesn't sing like this all the time, but whatever. And I'll admit, it is extremely jarring to hear a Taylor song that sounds this much like The National, or to hear Justin Vernon singing lyrics and melodies that were clearly written by Taylor Swift. But Taylor's best move wasn't bringing in indie rock ringers. It was the discovery that she did not have to use her music like her personal diary. She could write about other people for a change. And so for the first time in forever, she doesn't sound smothered by the weight of her own celebrity.
So step right out, there is no amount.
Fiction suits Taylor really well. Exile is a song of 2 exes rehashing their pain at each other. It really builds and it really climaxes.
You never get no warning sign.
The thing is that Taylor's subject matter, high school, breakups, hasn't changed. But what has changed is the perspective. Her new cottagey aesthetic adds maturity, it adds distance, it's a wide-angle shot now. Taylor, in her worst moment, once tried to claim that she got smarter in the nick of time. That wasn't true, but it's true now. Some of us actually got some good out of the pandemic. Taylor used it to finally figure out what her strengths are. I'm sure Pop Taylor will return soon enough, But if she wants to keep using this time to keep making folk records, then it was time well spent. Number 5. 2020 was a bad year, but the summer was the worst. We called it the George Floyd protest, but obviously it wasn't just him. There's too many names to keep track of. Even during the protests, they were still shooting people. I guess all the footage of police violence didn't tell me anything I didn't already know, but they're seeing it, and they're seeing it everywhere, every hour. Like, I come from a really sleepy suburb, and even there, I was seeing videos of it happening just a couple blocks from the streets I grew up on. The great thing about music is that it can address things like this right away, but I don't usually expect anything from the big stars, and I don't expect them to become hits. And if I did expect anything, I certainly didn't expect it from this man.
My 4x4 for GC3 ain't no more free Lil Steve. I gave him chance.
I have said over and over again that I'm not a fan of Lil Baby. Whatever it is he does, it doesn't move me at all. And he certainly wasn't known for having a political side. If there was going to be a big Black Lives Matter anthem, you'd probably expect it from Kendrick Lamar, who was a ghost all year, or J. Cole, whose big 2020 moment was instead whining about people who expected him to say something. It feels like Lil Baby spoke up because someone had to.
Fucked up, I seen what I seen. I guess that mean hold him down if he say he can't breathe. It's too
And to be clear, I'm not like, oh, he's finally writing about something important now instead of just money and drugs. He's good now. Yes, I know what that sounds like. I've been unmoved by plenty of attempts at making big statements, especially this year when so many celebrities tried to meet the moment and failed miserably.
I take responsibility.
In honor of George Floyd, shout out to his family.
So I want to be clear, Lil Baby's The Bigger Picture isn't on this list because of its subject matter. It's on the list because it captured everything that I, Todd, have personally been feeling. Which doesn't even make any sense. Me and Lil Baby have not a goddamn thing in common. I don't come from the streets, I don't have his experiences. For that matter, I'm not a fabulously wealthy rap star. Lil Baby could have been like Lil Wayne, just taken his money and fame and disappeared up his own ass. But instead, when Lil Baby started protesting, organizers said he showed up with no entourage, no jewelry, no ego, he just wanted to help. That's the guy I hear on this record.
Every video I see on my conscience, I got power now, I gotta say something.
Just a regular guy who's speaking up, not because he thinks he's the right messenger, but because he can't not say something. Like, there's a place for pump-up rebel anthems, your Public Enemies, your Rage Against the Machines. A Lil Baby isn't coming from anger, he's coming from pain.
Too many mothers just grieving, they're killing us for no reason.
More than anything, I connected to that pain pretty viscerally. It's the same pain that any thinking, feeling human being has felt in 2020 and years before it, unless you lived under a rock. And forgive me for taking the focus off of Black Lives Matter for a moment, but there's a bigger picture beyond that too. Because this song is also how I felt watching the Muslim ban, Puerto Rico, Charlottesville, every fucking thing that happened these last few years, including this last week where I was supposed to be trying to make this goddamn video, but I kept getting distracted by more horrible fucking news. This shit fucking sucks and it's gotta fucking stop!
But we gotta start somewhere, might as well go ahead, start here. We done had a hell of a year.
Yeah, we sure did.
What happened to COVID? Nobody remember it. Ain't
no, I do remember that, Lil Baby. But it is true that it feels like we're dealing with too many crises at once. And this is the song that captured the emotion of being just so tired but too angry to sleep. This isn't a song you can throw on for fun. I prefer catchy, lightweight pop over heavy stuff like this, and we will get back to that shortly. But this is a song that's not just really good, it's a document of what it was like to live through the worst year in living memory. 2021 is already also not looking great, but like the man says, we gotta start somewhere. Let's make it better than that last one.
Go ahead, start here. We done had a hell of a year. I'ma make it count while I'm here. God is the only man I fear.
Number 4. I think I realized like a year or so ago that I was actually really rooting for Miley Cyrus in her career. Which is kind of odd because I've never liked a single thing she's ever done, or at the very least nothing she's ever done without a wig on. But under her own name, nah. I thought her big songs were overrated at best, and her less successful songs, oof. And yet, I've discovered I do kind of admire her, just for how strange her career is, that she's kept following her own weird muse into a billion weird places, That her greatest hit CD could have shit like See You Again, 23, and Malibu back to back. She just had to find the right sound, I think. Something that fit her. And in 2020, she finally found it. Miley's pop stardom has always been kind of hampered by her sharp, keening voice, which always kind of fit more with rock or country than pop. But the retro sounds of the 80s stubbornly refused to leave, and somewhere in those sounds, Miley finally found a version of pop that she could make her home. The writer Chuck Eddy once identified a trend of 80s music he called flash dance, which he defined as hard-driving, minor keys, synth and guitars rock music that tended to soundtrack action movies. It's basically what you think of when you think of 80s music, and it fits Miley just so well. Midnight Sky only barely qualified as a hit by my criteria. It mostly settled into the mid-tier of the Hot 100. And yet this middlingly successful song seems to have completely revitalized her career. For the first time ever, there seems like real enthusiasm about her as an artist that she didn't have in 2006 or 2009 or 2013 or any other time she's been big. For all her attempts over the years at being a rebel, this is the first time where she really seemed like she was pulling it off, where she wasn't just trying too hard and embarrassing herself. She doesn't belong to anyone, and she doesn't need to be loved by you. After a decade of doing whatever the hell she wants, I think she's earned the right to say that about herself. I mean, what can you say? She's just being Miley, and I respect her for it. Number 3. At the end of the year, Spotify tells you what your most popular songs were. It's not really useful for music critics. I'm usually listening to Spotify for work, so these things don't really tell me my actual taste, especially this year where I started listening to the entire Hot 100 every week out of boredom. But if you want to know what my most listened to song of the year was, here you go. I guess I'm not surprised. Every week I listened to the Hot 100, it was there. Plus I listen to it on my own time a lot also, so yeah, that makes sense. It's a really good song. Of all the acts who had breakthrough superstar years in 2020, I think Harry Styles jumped up the most because his rise felt a lot less inevitable. I gotta admit, I wasn't really that impressed with his first solo stuff that I heard. Adore You was a deserved smash hit that made me reconsider Harry Styles. But I think his approach really unlocked for me when I saw him cover Sledgehammer. You can have a steam train. Harry has named many classic rock influences. I don't think he's named Peter Gabriel as one of them, even though he changed his vocal style to sound exactly like Peter Gabriel. But I think Sledgehammer the song might in fact be a major influence, because that was the big crossover single from Peter Gabriel. The lifelong outsider art rocker trying to be a pop star. I think that's kind of the intended sound for Harry. The pop star trying to be an outsider trying to be a pop star. You can tell what he wants to be. He wants to be one of those classic weird pop stars, a Gabriel or a Sting or a Bowie. But he comes at it from the opposite side. You can see him pushing himself to be stranger, wearing dresses, or this bizarre video, which is honestly kind of terrible. I'm sorry, I hate videos that don't go with the song. Adore You is not about loving a magic fish. And I have seen a tiny bit of backlash to the hype too, that he's not pushing boundaries like Bowie or Prince. Yeah, he still makes polished pop songs, and he's far too indebted to the classic styles to be called groundbreaking. But I love that he's trying to get there in his own way. The weirdos of the 70s becoming the great pop stars of the 80s was the best thing about that decade. Burning Down the House, Owner of a Lonely Heart, Let's Dance. These are the kinds of songs that Harry Styles is trying to recreate, and no one else is doing it, or at least not this well. And now to see if any of the other Directioners can match him. Ball's in your court, Liam. Number 2. Fun thing I like to do is ask people for their best and worst 2 seconds of the year. My vote for the worst was the lyric I already mentioned in the worst list. The popular vote went again to Justin Bieber, Go fig. I asked for the best 2 seconds also. I could give you the votes to that. Hell, I could give you a whole top 10 list for the best single moments of this year in music. I mean, I could do it all in this entry because they all came from this one song.
I said certified freak.
If you want to know my actual thoughts on this, you can see my review on it, which a bunch of you didn't because YouTube thinks that a review of a song called Wet Ass Pussy is not appropriate for advertisers, so they buried the fuck out of it. And they'll probably bury this video too. Maybe I should just bleep out this entire segment.
You fucking with some wet ass pussy.
Although it's probably for the best that you all missed that review because I am told that I pronounced it wrong. I call it WAP, which is apparently wrong. Cardi gives the actual pronunciation in the song. I should have just copied her.
I'm talking whap, whap, whap. That's the
Whap.
whap, whap, whap. That's the
Whap. Regardless, Whap was immediately the most controversial song of the year because it was so unabashedly filthy.
swipe your nose like a credit card.
The moral guardians of our era condemned it. Even the outrage magnets of previous generations, like Snoop Dogg and Black Sabbath's Geezer Butler, even they were bothered by it. Geezer at least laughed it off like, look at me, I'm old now. But Snoop seemed to be genuinely offended. This song was so gross that even Snoop Dogg, whose first album was literally called Doggy Style, he took issue with it. This disgusting filth was so repellent that naturally it was the most acclaimed and successful song of the year, making every publication's top 10 list, including number 1 for Pitchfork and NPR. Seriously, NPR? I'm Ari Shapiro, and bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass pussy. I mean, obviously. This song just piled up moment after moment, quotable line, one after the other. Like, I don't even know if this song is more than the sum of its parts. The parts are just that good. Like, how can you even pick the best one?
Bring a bucket and a mop right in this little garage. Make it touch that little dangly thing that's swinging the back of my throat.
I'ma spell my name.
Macaroni in a pot. I don't cook, I don't clean, but let me tell you, I got this ring.
Gobble me, swallow me, drip down inside of me.
Actually, that part could be like 3 separate top moments of the song for me. Cardi's line, Megan's line, and the handoff between the two. The only thing that kept this song from being number 1 is that I love it primarily because it is very funny. And funny doesn't always last very long, jokes wear out. But I hope that someday down the line, like when our kids hear this and all the dirty talk is nothing but cute, I'll still hear that honking horn.
Make it cream.
It'll still put a big smile on my face. And on that note, let us finish the list off with some honorable mentions. I mean, this song was pretty hot too, but it didn't have the truck horn. If it did, it might have made the list.
I had a dream. I got everything I wanted.
One of the defining moments of music this year that I don't think should be forgotten is Billie Eilish begging God not to win any more Grammys. Everything I wanted was that moment in song. I absolutely love it.
They don't deserve you.
100,000 for the cheapest ring on a nigga finger, little bitch.
I think I like this song more than most people. Oh, by the way, I get Future now. Took me fucking long enough.
'Cause I told you my level of concern.
Oh, and I get 21 Pilots now, too. This was the first song I heard this year that used the word quarantine, and it certainly was not the last.
Would you be my little quarantine?
Ain't nothing that a big can't fix.
Oh, yeah. This year, well, no comment.
Billie Jean, Christian Dior.
Rest in peace, man.
Don't show up, don't come out.
Dua Lipa did not make the official list, and good God almighty, do I feel bad about that. In a weaker year, this could have been like number 4. I mean, she brought back the disco call. If the list had been about who had made the most good songs, Dua Lipa would have ranked very high.
I remember hitting them all with the whole team. Now a nigga can't answer calls cause I'm balling.
And this was the final cut I made. I feel so bad for anyone who broke through this year and didn't get the chance to enjoy it. I'm glad that Roddy got to hear at least a few crowds sing in the box before the world ended. But Ballin' was by far my favorite song of his this year. And hopefully he'll still be ballin' when the world opens up again.
I been ballin', nigga.
And now, the number one pick. Let's do it. Number one. I don't love that this next song is my number one pick because it's kind of personal to me, and I hate being personal. Usually my number one pick is something everyone agrees on. This one might only make sense to me. Few people could be scratching their heads after this, but my list. I can only tell you this song was my favorite thing of the year, and it was not even particularly close. So yeah, here it is.
Alright, I'm gonna see a little. Got something.
I am all in on Morgan Wallen. If you could place bets on a musician's career, I'd put down my entire life savings right now. This mulleted Tennessee redneck had the kind of year that makes you a country music superstar for decades. He's the first country singer like forever who has actual pop star buzz. He can album bomb the charts, bypass radio, get big on TikTok. And he didn't do it by trying to cross over or go pop or bypass country. He did it by just everything he released this year being really fucking good. And incidentally, I think he might not be over his first breakup because he had 3 big hits this year about the one that got away.
Does it ever make you sad to know that was 7 summers ago?
And they were all fantastic. But this was the one that really got me.
I love you more than a California sunset.
This is the moment that she gets away.
Big dream bags are all packed up and ready to go.
And it's for a pretty devastatingly simple reason. She had bigger dreams than he could give her.
This might be the last time I get to lay you down, 'cause I can't love you more than my hometown.
That's just kind of the long and short of it. The people I've seen who don't like the song had kind of the same objection I did, which is, you know, go after her, you idiot.
I ain't the runaway kind, I can't change that.
This is the girl of the dreams, but you won't move out of jerk water nowhere for her? What kind of dumbass are you? Certainly it was funny to hear the song sharing airtime with Blake Shelton's Happy Anywhere,
I could be happy anywhere with you.
which sounded like a massive subtweet to this song specifically. Like, I can't imagine being in that situation and choosing the town, any town, over a girl. But the fact is, long-term relationships are not just about love. They're about building a life together. And if you can't find a version of that that matches both of you, then it's not gonna work. All the things he says he loves her more than, you know, they're all romantic in that corny country way, but, you know, they're all small moments, sunsets, catching a fish. They're fleeting, they don't last.
You got a wild in your eyes that I just wasn't born with.
I moved this year. I carried everything I owned to the other side of the goddamn country, which I don't really recommend during a pandemic. The hotels are not serving continental breakfast right now. And there wasn't a girl involved, but I did leave a lot of good friends behind. And on the way, I mostly got a lot of country stations on the radio. I heard this song over and over again, and it hit home every time. Sometimes life just takes you where it takes you.
We can't stop this real world from spinning us.
More Than My Hometown is a song about reality intruding on the fantasy, and that love sometimes isn't enough, and that you can be deeply passionate about each other and no one does anything wrong, and things still end with a whimper.
And a guy gets a girl at the end of the book, but that ain't you and me, so I guess I'll see you around.
Heartbreaking. Right here. Right here. It's a song about endings, and sometimes things just have to end because there's something better on the horizon. And much less sadly, 2020 also had to end. And hopefully there's something better coming for all of us. Let's see how 2021 does us. Guess I'll see you around.
Baby, love you more.
She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here.